Moisturizer or SPF? And what comes first, foundation, concealer or primer? Color corrector or paint pot? What layers over what? Hi everyone, it's Smitha. Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you the exact steps to go from this to this using the correct order of makeup. It's important to solidify the basics to look incredible. This tutorial is going to be your makeup guide, whether you're a beginner or a pro, for reference, so you can apply makeup on yourself or someone else seamlessly. Before makeup actually begins, it's important to prep your skin. See all the texture on my face? Now, if I apply makeup directly over this texture, it's going to feel like a bumpy road. So to smooth it out, we need to prep the skin. The first thing that's important to do is push your hair back. And trust me on this, especially around your hairline so the makeup doesn't get on it. Now in the skincare process, the first step is to apply a moisturizer. And the one that I'll be using today is the IT Cosmetics Confidence in a Cream. This is especially fantastic if you have mature skin. That's because it's very hydrating. It really is an amazing moisturizer. And I'm going to apply a generous amount all over my face and neck. And I'm going to especially focus this in areas where my skin is rough and where I have more bumps. It's important to moisturize the lips as well, so don't forget your lips. And for that, I'm going to be using the Ole Henriksen Peptide Lip Treatment so I can keep my lips conditioned for the lipstick that's coming up at the very end. After moisturizer is when you're going to apply your SPF. And today I'm going to be using the Tatcha Silken Pore Perfecting Sunscreen, and this has an SPF of 35. I apply a generous amount all over my face and neck, and it starts out like it's going to give you that white cast and that flashback. But trust the process, keep on massaging it into your skin, and it'll start looking normal in just a minute. There we go, and it also gives that beautiful silken glow. And as we all know, it's very important to apply SPF to protect your skin against the sun rays. And the final step of skincare process is to use a primer. And today I'm going to be using Glaze It from KàYA Beauty. The purpose of using a primer is twofold. One, it's going to fill in all those pores, all those fine lines, and smooth out your skin, providing a beautiful canvas for makeup application. And second, it's going to form that tacky layer over your skin. So when you apply, let's say, your foundation or concealer, it's going to cling on to your skin, which means the makeup will not move or crease, and it's going to last longer. Next comes foundation. But should you use a brush or a sponge to apply it? Use a soft bristle brush if you want more coverage, and a sponge for less coverage but a flawless one. I personally love to use brushes because I just love the way it applies foundation. Today I'm going to be using the L'Oreal True Match Foundation in the shade Warm Medium, which is W5. Never use the foundation directly on your tools. Instead, take a little bit in the back of your hands and pick it up with your tools like your brush or sponge. And rather than applying it in the circumference of your face, start with the center of your face so less product gets on your hairline. If you start in the circumference of your face, most of the product will transfer to your hairline, and removing that, especially if your products are waterproof, is a nightmare. So always start in the center. Use pressing or dabbing motion, slowly blending it outward toward your hairline. But be watchful to make sure not too much product gets in your hairline. Also make sure to bring it all the way down to your neck so your neck and face look like one piece. If you observed, I never applied the foundation under my eyes because that's where we're going to be using concealer, for which I'm going to be using Milani Concealer in the shade Warm Beige. And the reason I'm using this is because it's a close match to my skin tone. When you use a concealer that's a good match to your skin tone, it's going to cover up the uneven skin tone on your face. That includes your dark circles, dark patches, and spots. I'm going to let it sit for a couple minutes until it's just a tad bit dry, and then blend it out with a concealer brush. That way it gives me more coverage. Again, always try to use a concealer that's a good match to your skin tone. If you use a lighter concealer, then it's going to mingle with the purple and blue undertones of your dark circles and patches and start to look ashy. And that's when you start to get those flashbacks during flash photography and videography. Now, as you can see, that's covered up everything beautifully. The reason you should not be using foundation in the areas where you use concealer is because you will be using concealer anyway over it for that extra coverage. And concealer covers up everything. So by using a foundation underneath, you're just layering too much, which might result in caking or creasing. Now that we've evened out our skin tone, if you want to highlight underneath your eyes, you can use a lighter shade of concealer. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to be using the L'Oreal True Match in the shade W4. And I'm going to use it in the very inner corner and blend it out. I love the way this concealer layers over the Milani concealer. And as you can see, it just gives you enough highlight and brightens up under the eyes without looking overly exaggerated. And it's also not looking ashy. The next step is to contour, for which I'm going to be using the Essence Contour Stick. Contour sticks usually are cooler in their tone, like a cool gray or a cool brown, like an ashy brown. That's because they're supposed to mimic shadows, and shadows are usually gray. Here's an example of a contour stick that I'll be using today from Essence. As you can see, it's cooler. And here's a bronzer stick, which is warmer, because bronzers are supposed to mimic that very sunburnt tan look. So if you're going to contour, use something that has a cooler tone. Looking straight in the mirror, I'm going to see where exactly those shadows are cast on my face. And I'm going to use the contour stick to deepen those shadows and add more facial dimension. That's going to be mostly under my cheekbones, the sides of my nose, and in my jawline. And then using a flat brush, I'm going to blend everything out. Sometimes you can also use a bronzing stick directly instead of contour to add dimension and give a more sun-kissed look as opposed to deepening the shadows. That's also going to add dimension to your face. And whether you use a contour or a bronzer, it's just a personal choice. And right over that contour on my cheeks, I'm going to be using a cream blush. And for this, I'm going to be using Cheek Clapper from One Size. And I'm going to use a cream blush called Choose Me. Again, I'm dabbing off the excess in the back of my hand and I'm using it on my cheeks, slowly layering and building up. Always remember the rule of using cream products before you set your face with powder, and any powder products after you've set your face with powder. As you can see, because I applied the blush higher up, it gave me a more lifted effect. And now to set my entire face, I'm going to use a loose powder. This is the One Size Blurring Setting Powder. I'm going to take it with a powder puff. Again, dab off the excess in the back of my hand so I can remove all that excess powder that shouldn't be sitting on the face. And then I'm going to gently press it. First in areas where I feel like my products that I applied might move or crease, like under the eyes and around the mouth, and then I'm going to set the rest of the face. Try to use a loose powder as opposed to a compact or pressed powder, because compacts and pressed powders are thicker. They're supposed to mimic a powder foundation. So sometimes when you set your face with those, it can start to look extremely thick and cakey. As you can see, the right side of my face is already looking so filtered. This is the side that I haven't set my face with, and this is the side that looks completely blurred out. So try to choose powders that are very finely sifted so they don't look cakey and dry, instead give you this filtered effect. And you don't need too much powder. All you need is just enough so your foundation quickly absorbs and locks it in. The base is now almost done. And before I add any more dimension, I usually start and finish my eye makeup. But today we are focusing just on the base makeup. So I'm going to skip the eye makeup part and keep it in a separate tutorial, which is coming up next. Now that we've set our face with powder, we can go ahead and use powder products over this. And I'm starting with a bronzer. This is Samantha March's collaboration with Ofra Cosmetics, and this bronzer duo is called River. It comes with a shimmery one and it comes with a matte one. And bronzers usually are either shimmery satin or matte, and I prefer matte bronzers because they don't emphasize the texture on your face. I'm going to be using the KÄYA Beauty 104 powder brush, and I'm going to be applying the bronzer right in between where I use the contour and the blush. Right in the middle of that. And I'm going to add more dimension on the face. The purpose of a bronzer is to mimic that sun-kissed glow that we naturally get when we step out or stay on the beach or stay in the sun for a long time. So I'm mostly going to use it in the circumference of my face, and I'm also going to add a little bit of dimension on my nose, because when I actually get sunburned, that's where I get burnt. Now that we've set our face with powder, you can also use a powder blush to go over the cream blush that we had applied if you feel like you want to brighten it further. But again, always remember, I'm going to emphasize this again, use powder products after you've set your face with powder and cream products before you've set your face with powder. The face looks fantastic. Onto lipstick. I like to first clean up my lips using a Q-tip to remove any debris as well as the lip balm that I used. I first use a lip liner to define my lips, and today I'm going to be using the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in Wherever Walnut. I love to overline just in the topmost point of my lips, just a tad bit, and then in the lowermost point of my lip, again, just a tad bit, and then join it to the natural lip line. That way it doesn't look overly done, but you still get some volume. And then I start shading with the lip pencil invert, especially starting from the corners. And then I use my finger to blend it out further so it melts beautifully into the lipstick that I'm going to be applying. For which I'm going to be using L'Oreal Color Rich Lipstick in 635, which is Worth It Medium. The way I apply lipstick is I dab it right in the center and blend it out with my fingers, so it blends beautifully with the lip liner. And to finish up, I like to use a flat brush with some concealer to clean up around the edges of the lips. It elevates the entire look, and you gotta trust me on this. It's time to lock everything in so the makeup doesn't move, for which I'm going to be using a setting spray. This is one of my favorite setting sprays. It's the Until Dawn by One Size. Give it a good shake and spray a generous amount. If you feel like there's any droplets or spots on your face, just use a dry sponge to clean up so it doesn't dry spotty on your face. This is going to do two things for you. It's going to melt all the excess powders and make it look more skin-like. And it's also going to lock your makeup in, will not allow it to move, which means it's going to make your makeup long-lasting. After I've applied the setting spray is when I use a highlighter, if I want to use a highlighter. The one that I'll be using today is Flash by Ofra Cosmetics, which is my collaboration with them. It's a fantastic highlighter if you're planning to buy one. And I like to highlight the high planes of my face. I'm going to use it first on the bridge and tip of my nose using a flat brush. Just look at that pigment payoff. And then using a soft blending brush, I'm going to go over the other high planes on my face, like my cheekbones and my brow bone. And the reason I'm using the highlighter after setting my face is because it just shows better after using the setting spray. That way you can use less product and it looks much more softer. That's it, my friends. The only other thing I did was apply some mascara. In the next video, I'm going to be showing you beginner eye makeup, and that's a fantastic video as well. And here is the finished look. Once again, here's the before and here is the after. I just love the way this turned out, and I hope you do as well. Leave a comment or a heart below and let me know how you enjoyed this video. And if you're new here or haven't already, please consider subscribing. In the description box below this video, you'll find links to all the products that I used in today's tutorial, along with links to social media in case you plan to follow me there. I love you guys so much, and I will see you soon with a brand new one. Bye, guys.